Gregory with 5-Minute Catholic Apologetics, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today we're going to talk about the Incorruptibles, saints whose bodies don't corrupt. Now before we begin, let's start with a prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritui Sancto, secutor in principio et nunc et semper et secula seculorum. Amen. All right, so we're going to talk about the Incorruptibles today. These are the bodies of saints that have not corrupted many times for centuries. Now, some Catholics know about this. Protestants as a whole do not know about this. So a lot of converts to Catholicism would not know about this. And it's miraculous. It is miraculous. There's about a little over 100 saints whose bodies have never fully decomposed. And some of these saints are pretty famous. I have been blessed to have seen one of these incorruptibles, Saint Bernadette of Lourdes fame, the visionary of the Virgin Mary in 1858, if I remember correctly. I've been to Lourdes twice. And she's in a monastery in Nevers, France, which is not too far from Lourdes. She was a child when she saw the Virgin Mary, and later she entered the monastic life, or became a nun, I should say. And she had a lot of tribulations, and like a lot of the visionaries who have been, I should say, approved, she died young, and she died in the monastery, and her body never decomposed. Now, how did they know this? Well, lots of times when a person of holiness is buried, later on they unearth them to get relics. And we don't have an episode on relics yet. We need to do an episode on relics because a lot of Protestants freak out about relics. And so they'll unearth the body several times. Like, for example, St. Bernadette died in the 1870s, and they unearthed her body a couple of times in the early 20th century to get relics so they could be venerated. And they noticed the body wasn't decomposing. So they put her in a glass coffin so you could see her and venerate her. So I have been in Nevers, in the monastery. They have her there, and I'll show you a picture. But there's also other saints that have never corrupted. I'll just mention some of the more famous ones. Saint Rita of Cascia. Saint Rita of Cascia is kind of known as the patron saint, I suppose, of abused women. I don't know what officially her name is, her patroness is. But she's known to have been married to a man who was pretty abusive. They had a couple of children. The husband was a kind of a sinner, a bad sinner, and then eventually he repented and became a good man. And then he died in a vendetta. This was Italy, so a lot of vendettas going on. The sons were going to exact revenge for the father's death, and then of course, St. Rita was worried for their immortal soul if they were going to murder somebody. So the two sons died of sickness, and St. Rita was happy. Now, like from today's worldview, like this is so odd, right? You want your kids to die, but they died before they committed a mortal sin, which would have condemned them to hell, unrepentant. So, I mean, it is a different worldview that we definitely live on today. But you also have St. John Mary Vianney, you have St. Virginia Centurioni, you have St. Francis Xavier over in India, and there are other ones. So the thing is, skeptics are going to be like, well, this is all a joke. Well, understand a couple of things. First of all, not all the bodies are fully incorrupted. So, like for St. Bernadette, they have a little wax mask over her face because she does have some discoloration in her face. And I think just they covered up so you don't see it because it might be a little unsightly. But understand, I mean, these bodies, of course, should just be skeleton. That's it. But they still have flesh. And many of them exude a kind of a beautiful rose perfume aroma, which if any of you have ever had a dead animal in your house or near your house, you know that is the opposite smell that you should be smelling. So these are miracles. Now, the church used to use these as the miracles for sainthood. And we talked about that in an episode, kind of 5 post-Vatican II, I guess, slouching toward averageness. I don't know how you would call it. But we used to have it where it's 3 miracles. Now it's only 2 miracles. But these are no longer counted as a miracle toward that person to become a saint. But they are absolute miracles. They're absolute miracles. We know these bodies should be corrupted, and it's nothing that this person did that guaranteed their body to be corrupted. This is all through the power of God, of course. It's through the power of God that these bodies haven't decomposed. And for the naysayers who say, well, the Catholic Church has just, shot formaldehyde into these bodies to make sure that they would never decompose. Well, A, they'd still decompose. But B, imagine the blow to prestige to the Catholic Church if the Catholic Church was found to have been fraudulent in regards to incorruptible bodies. I mean, this would be a worse scandal and lead more people away from the church and from Christianity than the sex abuse scandal in America 20 years ago. Because the sex abuse scandal, which we talked about in the episode, four lies that Catholics tell themselves. The sex abuse scandal was done by a very, very small percentage of inveterate homosexual priests. The majority were homosexual priests, but it was a small group of priests. And you could say, well, you don't forsake Peter for Judas. And we can always talk about how there's always going to be weeds among the wheat. But if the church itself was found to be tinkering with these bodies to maintain this idea that they didn't corrupt it, in fact, it's all fraudulent, that would be a complete blow. And also, you understand, the church doesn't need to do this. The church, we have Eucharistic miracles too. It was caused, like the one of Lanciano or some other ones where it was shown that we fraudulated it. It's not worth it because we have the truth. We have the fullness of the truth. We don't need to have incorruptibles to show that we're the true church founded by Jesus Christ. And of course, fraudulating these things would be contrary to the belief of Jesus Christ. And it would be fraud and lying and so forth. So no, these bodies are truly miracles that they are preserved. So if any of you are not familiar with this, there's a great book that I read 20 years ago on the corruptibles. I'll see if I can put the author here in the bottom. But look into it, and if any of you are in Europe, or if you're in India, where St. Francis Xavier is the great missionary, check out these bodies and venerate them. And we'll have a separate episode, of course. Venerating is not worship, but we don't worship dead bodies. Guys, post in the comments. Let me know if you've ever been or have ever seen any incorruptibles. Hit the notification, subscribe, and share button, share with others. Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.